Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today. Welcome to this week's episode of 15 with the Team, a series where the Office of the Student Advocate discusses common topics with the DC education system to help you become better informed and empowered in less than 15 minutes. My name is Valeria Popolicio Torres, and I am a student advocate with the Office of the Student Advocate. Today, we will be talking about teacher leadership, not just what happens inside a classroom, but how teachers work together with families, students, and the broader community to make schools stronger. So we have Caroline here with us today. Can you please introduce yourself, your role at Empower Ed, and explain for folks who aren't familiar what is Empower Ed and what you all do?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, very excited to be here and in this space. My name is Caroline Pryor. I'm the Director of Policy and Power Building at Empower Ed, and Empower Ed is a teacher voice organization. So we have really two missions. One side is teacher advocacy, which is most of my work, but we also do teacher wellness work in direct partnerships with schools. And we work with DC's public schools, so DCPS and public charter.
Awesome. Thank you. And so from your perspective, what would you say are some of the biggest challenges that teachers in DC are facing right now?
There's a lot going on, and I do think that teaching in this environment where public education is under attack is really weighing heavily on a lot of our teachers. I know it's weighing heavily on a lot of our students and families as well. But I think really there's two sort of main issues that are challenges for DC teachers. One is that we are asking our schools to solve so many different challenges. We are asking our schools to solve things that are really like outside of the school building. So making sure that our students are safe and well fed when they are at school is something that teachers are often working overtime to figure out solutions to those challenges as well. And also just thinking about professional trust for our teachers and trusting our teachers to teach lessons, teach empowering lessons, and really be respected as professionals in this space.
Thanks. And you kind of spoke on this before, but I'm wondering if it might differ a little bit. What do you see that teachers see in the classroom that you think policymakers might not fully understand?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. And we're lucky in DC in that a lot of folks in our education agencies are often former educators or have worked with young people before. That's not necessarily the case when we think about the rest of our policymakers. And so, one of the things that teachers know is that when you are working with students, learning moves at the pace of learning. And that's true of so many other initiatives that happen in the school is that they take time. So one of the things I think that I wish our policymakers knew is that it takes time for us to see the results that we know are possible when we bring in a new initiative. And oftentimes it feels like we are, okay, this didn't work. We don't have the data from this in 3 months, in a year, whatever it is, like a really short time span. And then we move on to the next thing and ask teachers to learn and implement an entirely new system. And so we call that initiative fatigue. But it can be really hard for teachers to advocate for their students and to advocate for their schools when they are working on a project or an initiative, whatever it is that they know works. It just needs some more time. And that timing may not line up necessarily with the advocacy season or budget season, but it's something that teachers really have faith in and are waiting to see the results, and something that oftentimes like students or families have buy-in as well. So thinking about the timelines that support our schools and our students and our teachers, and not just the timelines that support policy making, if that makes sense.
Of course. I know you mentioned there being, initiative fatigue, but for our educators who want to get into advocacy beyond the classroom, what does bringing teachers into advocacy look like in practice?
Yeah, it's really unique in DC. I think DC is obviously a very special political circumstance normally because we're not a state. But I think also because our DC education system is in mayoral control and there's so many different agencies that can be really hard for advocates to navigate and to figure out how to move between those. And so a lot of this work of bringing teachers into the advocacy space is helping teachers understand that system, but it's also about helping that system understand our teachers. So just as an example, it can be frustrating for educators who want to advocate and an education hearing is scheduled at 9 a.m. on a Wednesday. So things like that. And I know that OSA is under the state board, and the state board is one of the much more accessible ways for educators to go advocate because it's always after school. And so that's like a very quick example of how it can be hard to bring teachers into that space. And so Empowered really tries to work to make sure that policymakers come to the teachers, that teachers have a seat at the table. And if a hearing is starting at 9 a.m., we will do everything we can to make sure teachers can still testify after school. But it is a process that I think like advocacy becomes less daunting the more you do it. And it's really important for us to have educators and students and teachers and young people who are sharing their direct experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, oftentimes in our work too, right? We're here to help navigate the public education system and help families and students. And that can be really hard when, like you said, there are a lot of agencies, there's a lot of places that you can go to. So just letting folks know how to access it is so important. So thanks for doing
Mhm.
all of that.
Yeah, thank
Um,
you for doing all of that.
Of course. You spoke a little bit about, connecting teachers and students. How do you think teacher voice and student voice can better work together in shaping education policy?
Yeah, I think that's a really great question and a really great way to approach this work. And especially like when we go into schools for our wellness work, we have this sort of cycle where we say educator wellness feeds student wellness, feeds educator wellness, feeds student wellness. We think about all of those things being like they have to be really tied up together. And if it's a solution that works for only one group but not another group, then we have to go back to the drawing board. Um, but I think also um, one of the dynamics in DC, especially right now, is we have been thinking really hard as a system to find ways to implement student voice in schools. And we also have to think as a system about ways to implement student voice outside of schools. So when our students are walking around the city, when they are like heading home from school from, their out of school time program, whatever it is, thinking about ways that we can implement and really consult youth voice, not only in schools, but in our city as a whole. And so that's part of the work that our teachers are trying to support as well. Um, but I think there are certain things where there's just like a lot of alignment, and what feels really exciting for teachers is often what feels really exciting for students in terms of learning experiences. So hands-on learning, experiential learning, learning that really comes to life, and thinking about ways that we can unite student and teacher voice there together so that it becomes a really exciting pedagogical experience.
Yeah. And I know you talked about just having students approach not just education and school policy, but thinking about all types of policy. So for students, for teachers, or families who want to advocate for change, and that can be any type of change, where would you suggest that they start?
Where would I suggest that they start? Well, hopefully we are about to get a budget soon. So we are heading into budget season. And that is just like a really important place for us to hear from teachers, from families, from students. So when the budget drops, which we're hoping it's April 1st, then all of the performance budget oversight hearings start happening. And it's a really great place to think about advocating at the city level, at city council. But there's also just a lot of really fantastic spaces for families and for students and for teachers to advocate with throughout the city. There's a lot of really exciting organizations. Um, for students, opportunities at the state board, opportunities with youth organizations, Black Swan, DC Girls Coalition, DC Action, MICFA, Critical Exposure, United Leaders for Freedom. There's just a very long list. And so I think for people that want to get into this advocacy work, ask around, see which groups your school might already be connected to. Ask your teachers, see if they have any ideas, because oftentimes teachers want to get their students into city council to testify. They want to get their students to the state board to really listen to those experiences and be civically engaged. So I think there's a lot of really fantastic places to start. And we're very lucky in DC to have such a network of organizations that are doing this work and that are always looking for more energy and more voices.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again, Caroline, for joining us and sharing your wealth of knowledge, sharing about the work that you're doing at Empower Ed. It was definitely great to hear from your perspective and learning more about how teachers and students are shaping education policy here in DC. We truly couldn't build strong schools without teachers working together, partnering with families, and amplifying student voices. At the Office of the Student Advocate, our role is to support this work by helping elevate concerns, connect people to resources, and ensure student and family voices are part of the conversation. If you have any questions or need any assistance, don't hesitate to reach out to us at 202-741-4692 or email us at student.advocate@dc.gov. Thanks.
Thank you.